All right, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer. We're unpacking something genuinely fascinating today, pulling from some intense source material by Dark Mindset. We're talking about the silent power of body language, specifically decoding the mechanics of nonverbal dominance. You know, how certain people just seem to effortlessly command respect and attention the absolute second they walk into a space. Well, we're going to break down exactly how that silent influence works, relying on 7 specific secrets detailed in our source. So, get ready, because we are getting right into it.
It's the ultimate question, right? How do you actually dominate a room without uttering a single word? To really wrap our heads around the source material's 7 secrets of body language, we're going to look at this through a highly specific lens. We're basically going to walk through one single chronological social encounter. Literally, from the absolute first moment you step through a door, all the way to the moment you say goodbye. By visualizing this as one continuous interaction, you're going to see exactly how these physical cues stack on top of each other to build a genuinely commanding presence.
Now, before we begin our chronological walkthrough, we've got to ground ourselves in the core philosophy here. Our source material defines true power as a silent, effortless state of being. It's expressed through deliberate movement, stillness, and breath. The original analysis argues that true power, it's not about yelling, it's not puffing out your chest, and it is definitely not about flexing your muscles to look bigger or tougher. Instead, it is entirely about how you exist and take up space in a room. It doesn't try, it just is.
And this brilliantly illustrates the stark contrast the source draws between amateur attempts at looking tough versus genuine, silent control. People so often make the mistake of thinking power is all about relying on muscles, raising your voice, or just leaning heavily on money and status. But genuine power is actually found in the raw fundamentals of your physical existence: your breathing, the way you sit, the way you move, and your mastery of silence. The source notes that amateur behavior actually just broadcasts insecurity. Mastering these subtle physical elements, though, radiates an energy that forces instinctive respect.
Let's see how this actually builds our chronological encounter. Picture this: you're walking into your next big meeting or maybe a crowded social event. According to the source, most people make the amateur mistake of immediately starting to talk the second they enter. Instead, you should use these 3 specific steps. Step 1, enter the room. Step 2, stop and wait for exactly 3 seconds just to scan the space. And step 3, make brief eye contact with a few key people. By doing this, you create an instant shift in the room's energy. Just like high-level CEOs, military leaders, and politicians, this intentional pause forces everyone else to acknowledge your presence and subconsciously wait for you to speak, all before you've even opened your mouth.
Okay, so now that you've claimed the space at the door, you actually have to walk to your destination. The source material provides this incredible imagery. Move as if gravity itself is heavier on you, like a lion stalking its prey. The researchers point out that weak body language is usually bouncy, it's rushed, and it involves constantly shifting your weight, basically making you look like you could be easily pushed right over. To truly own the space, this second technique requires you to replace all that nervous energy with heavy, intentional, immovable steps. You want to feel as though your weight is literally sinking into the earth, moving effortlessly, but with absolute grounded purpose.
Which perfectly transitions us into the confrontation phase of our encounter. Say someone in this meeting challenges you or tries to intimidate you. Nervous individuals immediately betray their stress, right? Their breath speeds up, they fidget, adjust their clothes, and crucially, they blink way too fast. But powerful people do the exact opposite. To signal absolute control, you hold your position and embrace total stillness. And instead of a wide-eyed stare, you intentionally slow your blink rate, letting your eyelids drop kind of lazily. This sends a completely undeniable subconscious signal that you are entirely unfazed.
And that brings us to another really powerful insight from the source material. Lions don't panic. Lions don't react. Lions observe. When you're challenged and you refuse to fidget, when you utilize that slow, lazy blink and maintain absolute physical stillness, it creates a wildly intimidating presence. The source notes that doing this makes the other person incredibly uncomfortable. Because you aren't giving them the nervous reaction they expect, the pressure flips right back onto them. They'll likely start shifting their weight, their voice might waver a bit, and they'll nervously start talking just to fill the silence and justify themselves.
That perfectly sets up our next technique, moving us fully into the conversation phase. When the other person finishes speaking or asks you a direct question, the source insists on a strict rule. You must pause for exactly 1 to 2 seconds before answering. Most people desperately rush to fill silence because it makes them feel awkward, which ends up making them look weak. But you need to let the silence build. In fact, I'm going to pause right now for 2 seconds just so you can feel the weight of this. See what that does? It subtly but completely shifts the entire power dynamic of the interaction.
Because during those 1 to 2 seconds of calculated silence, this exact internal panic is triggered in the person you're speaking with. They immediately start thinking, did I say something wrong? Did I offend them? Expert negotiators use this trick constantly. By making the other person wait, you are communicating that your response is highly calculated. The longer you comfortably hold that silence, the more valuable your words become when you finally do choose to speak. You force them to hang on to your every word, which is exactly why you can and should use this in your next salary negotiation or important pitch.
Now, eventually this interaction has to come to an end, which brings us to the calculated exit. The source is super clear here. Weak people wait for permission to leave a conversation, but powerful people dictate exactly when it ends. You shouldn't wait for a polite break. Instead, use these 3 physical cues to subtly close the interaction. First, glance away slightly before they even finish their sentence. Second, give a small, acknowledging nod. And third, turn your body slightly as if you're already moving on to the next thing. This sends a crystal clear psychological message that you've given them enough of your time, forcing them to suddenly value your presence much, much more.
But you aren't just going to walk away. Powerful people leave a lasting impression, which brings us to the 7th and final secret from our source, the cold, unreadable gaze. As you walk away, the analysis instructs you to pause briefly and glance back over your shoulder for just 1 second. You give no smile, no reaction at all, just a cold, unreadable look. The source claims this is incredibly effective because it makes people feel like there is something deeper, something mysterious about you. People remember feelings a lot more than words, and this final, unresolved glance leaves them practically obsessed with trying to figure you out long after you've left the room.
So the crucial point is how all these elements weave together into a single, cohesive presence. Let's quickly review our entire chronological encounter. It starts with the 3-second room scan to immediately claim the space. You follow it up with heavy, intentional steps that broadcast grounded stability. During confrontations, you rely on slow blinking and absolute stillness to unnerve your opponent. In conversation, you wield that 1 to 2 second pause to increase the weight of your words. When it's time to go, you are initiating the exit on your terms. And finally, you leave them thinking about you with that final glance back. Master these, and you change how the world interacts with you.
But this brings us to a deeply fascinating conclusion, drawn right from the end of our source material. While these 7 unexpected body language tricks will make you look instantly powerful, the source asserts that body language alone actually isn't enough. It's merely the physical gateway into deeper psychological frameworks. Which leaves us with this provocative question to ponder. Is true power really just about how you move, or is it ultimately about how you think? The original analysis suggests that mastering your physical presence is just step 1 in the darker psychology of influence. And that is definitely something worth thinking about. Until next time.